Then my second question is regarding Bell's palsy.
Mhm.
And is there a protocol that you have for
Yeah,
that?
so with Bell's palsy, a lot of times there's a compression on the nerve, like kind of behind the ear right back here.
Yeah.
Like you kind of see where I'm at. And so usually I have people use something like rosemary or marjoram and like rub it on the spot and rub it in the jaw. And you even can put like a little bit of like oil that you'd put on the face or aloe vera with a drop or two of it and kind of rub it on the face. But
Mhm.
really the areas like the jaw and behind the ear. And if you rub it in like that, it can reduce that quite a bit. And you know, sometimes they'll bounce out of it in like a week or two, and sometimes it'll take a year or two. Like it can take a while. I would also do healing in that area, like really kind of unwind it because the nerve is being compressed, right?
Okay.
So like the more you loosen that area up behind the ear, the more likely they are going to snap out of it, you know, because anytime, like if this is a nerve and if I stick like a nickel on it, you know, if like this was an exposed nerve and I put a nickel on it, it's a moderate amount of pressure, which will excite the nerve, right?
Mhm.
But if I took that nickel away and I put a quarter, you know, not that much more weight, you know, something a little bit heavier, maybe a 50-cent piece, and put it on there, the nerve will go to sleep. And so what's happening with Bell's palsy is that part of the face is like going to sleep. And so you just need to unwind that a bit so that the nerve starts firing again. It's like when you sit on your foot and your foot goes to sleep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Same idea.
So she actually had, this client actually had this condition about 2 years ago, and her face has recovered quite well, but she says she still has a crooked smile and
Yeah.
her face
Yeah.
sags. So this still would apply to that.
Yeah.
To help.
It probably has never been completely resolved. Like
Yeah.
it resolved somewhat, but like you said, there's the crooked smile. The other thing, do you see him in person or you see him like at a distance?
I have not ever seen her. We did one treatment, and because she's she's self-diagnosed as autoimmune because all of her joints hurt now, and she has been walking with a cane recently. So we just did a really good pranic healing general cleanup, cleaned all the chakras, cleaned all the joint chakras, and scrubbed out the joints. Left hip was the one that was giving her the most fits, and her big toe on the right foot. So we really scrubbed those joints out. And then
Does she walk with a limp?
Yes, she does.
Has she had her hips x-rayed?
Pardon?
Has she had her hips x-rayed?
Probably not.
So what can happen sometimes is like if a knee or a hip is bone on bone, you know, they'll be able to manage it, but what happens is the lymphatic system gets really backed up or stagnant in that particular area, and then at some point that inflammatory material becomes systemic. Like instead of being in a localized area, it just spreads through the body, and that's one of the symptoms is the joints start aching really bad, like old injuries start hurting, you know, things that were unresolved years ago kind of start coming back because that inflammatory material is settling in those compromised areas. And so I'd look at like if she has like a hip or a knee, it's usually a weight-bearing joint.
Okay.
So knees and hips are the two things to really look at. But if you see like an abnormal gait where there's a little bit of a limp, good chance it's probably a hip, especially if they kind of are swinging one of the legs. You know, they'll walk normal with one and then kind of swing the other one. Something's going on with the hip.
Okay.
And so that even the hip will manifest as low back pain in L2, L3 area, you know, not quite right at the bottom of the spine, but just a little bit up, like just a little bit below the Mingmen.
Okay.
And so, I mean, I'd look at that. And then The other thing is, if you ever are able to Zoom with her, like, you know how, like, you see, I'm sitting here like this,
Mhm.
see if she sits like this.
Okay,
You know what I mean? Like her eyes aren't horizontal.
okay.
And that actually, you know, going back to the Bell's palsy, is that there can be some issues in the cervical spine that is basically, it's like a condition that it's got a funny name, but it just means twisted neck. And
Mhm.
their neck, like they'll always, like even when they're walking or talking, their head will always be off to the same side, like all the time. Like the
Mhm.
eyes won't be horizontal. And in more extreme cases, they'll start to have a little bit of a tick, like where they kind of go like this, and then they'll go.
Mm.
If
Mhm.
that's the case, you have to really treat the neck, like the vertebrae by vertebrae. You have to really unwind the neck. They can develop Bell's palsy if that happens, but
Mhm.
that is an autoimmune issue. Like that causes
Okay.
autoimmune issues, and
That-
so
So that triggers an autoimmune
yeah,
issue.
anytime, like if this is the vertebrae and it moves side to side, it it impacts lymphatic function. It just slows down lymphatic movement in the body. But if the vertebrae slides forward, it's
Mhm.
autoimmune almost immediately.
Okay.
And so what happens sometimes in the neck is one of the vertebrae will just slide a little bit forward, and then it causes this autoimmune condition. And you
Interesting.
know, a lot of it's in the neck and in the face, but
Mhm.
I mean, hopefully it's just straightforward Bell's palsy,
Yeah.
but that she's having some of these other symptoms. And I would just like have a look at her, and not like try to hold yourself straight, like don't say anything to her, and just like watch her, like her
Yeah.
movement.
Yeah.
And like when she's resting, if her
Mm.
head starts always kicking off to the side, that's torticollis.
Okay. Okay. She's a brand new client and we've had only one session and I basically said, okay, we've done something, just sit with it for a week or two and then call me back and we'll go from there. And
Mhm.
she contacted me 3 days later and said, I want to set up another appointment.
Oh, good.
She said, I want to address Bell's palsy. And so then I said, I have to talk to Greg.
Yeah, sure.
To
Like
get some
so treat
guidance on.
along the base of the skull, treat the ear, treat the jaw, you know,
Yeah,
little marjoram and or rosemary, just one of them. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, but all of that should help unwind it. But
yeah,
that she's having some of those other symptoms, it always makes me want to go, oh,
yeah.
feels like something else is going on too. Like if she just responds to the treatment and she starts getting better, I'd almost forget everything that I said, other than, you know, check the hip, check the jaw, you know, do the base of the skull, and probably call it good. But
She
anytime you see
didn't.
joint pain, there's lymphatic stagnation.
Yeah,
And you know, you mentioned that she was walking with a cane and stuff like that. That starts to have a little bit of a vibe of something going on in a hip or in a knee, and then that can cause systemic lymphatic issues and systemic inflammation in the body. And then you start factoring in those other things, and uh
so yeah, she didn't have any amazing thing happen with that. She
yeah,
said,
if it's
well,
systemic lymphatic issues,
yeah,
it's going to be hard to control. Like
well,
it's doable, but it's not going to happen overnight.
yeah. What I actually thought of was asking her if she would like to be part of an experiment and just take her one session per week and go through the whole lymphatic protocols that we've
Yeah,
had so far,
I think that's a great idea.
because it would really it won't hurt her at all,
No.
and it would be a great tool to see how that all unwinds
Yeah.
things. And
Yeah.
I'm sure that she's just well, most of us are pretty stagnant, but I'm sure.
Yeah,
she-
the lymphatic system is, I think it's one of the most undertreated systems in the body.
Yeah,
One of the most vulnerable, and at the same time, one of the most undertreated.
yeah, yeah. Thank you so.
You're so welcome. Keep me posted on that. I'm very, very curious.
Yes, and oh, just a footnote. Long ago, you helped me with a client who was having really bad headache, constant, since the time her roommate blew up at her. And so I did what you said, and she has continued to use the oils. And she emailed me the other day. I hadn't heard from her for quite a while, and she said, I don't have headaches at all anymore.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good,
Okay.
good.
Thank you. Thank you.
That always makes me happy.
Oh, it made me happy, and I knew you want to know.
Yeah.
Take care.